Good morning, everyone. It is 8:39. Welcome back to CW Iowa Live. Lou and Jackie here on your Monday morning.
And we're here with Michael Jankins, who might be singing a tune you appreciate when it comes to bankruptcy, especially when it comes to vehicle loans. We want to make sure people know all the details and what happens. So Good morning, sir.
And you said this is one of the areas of your business that you're actually, it sounds like you're proud of because you help people out.
Yeah, we help them make good decisions, and I think the song on this that we'd pop in would be Money by Pink Floyd.
Dun, dun, dun.
Good reference there, good reference there. So what do we need to know when it comes to vehicle loans and bankruptcy?
So I'd say a bigger percentage of my clients that come to see me for bankruptcy have car loans when they file their bankruptcy. I mean, some people will have old paid off cars, but the majority of people are making car payments at the time they come to see me. Sometimes they're good car payments on a pretty good situation, and sometimes they're awful situations, either because they made poor decisions and bought way too expensive of a vehicle, or they're sitting on a $700 a month payment, which at least I think is awful. Or sometimes they have two car payments and they're making the combination of both is $1,000, and it's more than their house payment.
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
Bad situation. So we have to talk to our clients about making a good judgment this time around while they're in the bankruptcy about what they're going to do with their car. A lot of people go, I want to keep my car. I'm not going to lose my car, am I, if I file bankruptcy? And I go, well, if you pay for your car, you get to keep it. But the question is it worthwhile to pay for the car? And for some people it is, and for other people it's just not a good idea, and they have to look at different options versus paying for the particular car that they've got. So the ideal situation is when I have a client who's got a vehicle that's in a good situation. So I don't know, we'll take a 2015 Chevy Malibu,
okay,
and maybe they owe I don't know, $14,000 on it, and maybe it's worth $15,000. It probably isn't, but even if it's worth $12,000, they're a little bit upside down, not bad. And I'd say most people, when they have this situation, aren't really going to have equity unless the loan is really getting close to getting paid for. So to be a couple $1,000s of having more debt against the vehicle than its value isn't really that big of a deal. It's just ordinary depreciation when you buy a new car. So if you got a person in that situation and they can afford the car payment, so maybe the payment's $450, I mean, that's not an awful payment, probably average from what I see. And if it shows in their budget that they file in their bankruptcy that they can afford the vehicle, so when they take into account all the living expenses that they've laid out and what the take-home income is for the single person or the family, and they can afford it, they're still a surplus or at least break even, well, then I would be recommending to the person that they enter into a reaffirmation agreement. We've spoken about that in the past. It's essentially a bankruptcy contract that's signed that removes the debt from the bankruptcy. You just keep paying it the way you always have paid it, and then it will be like the debt was never in the bankruptcy, and so it'll help your credit after bankruptcy. It'll be reported to the credit bureau, all your payments being made on time, we're being optimistic. And so you can elevate your credit score in a very reasonable period of time after you file bankruptcy and be in a good situation. So that's the ideal situation. We get a reaffirmation agreement.
So you can actually have this agreement going on from the time you're filing bankruptcy and still starting to build your credit up already.
Well, once your bankruptcy's over.
Yeah, right.
You still make all your payments during the 3 months you're in the bankruptcy, and the judge has to approve it, and I have to sign it saying I believe it's essentially in your best interests and not an undue hardship, and I'm more than willing to do that as long as your budget shows you can really afford to do that, since I'm signing my name behind the document. So sometimes we have people that are at least in that situation with the car where it's a good value against what the loan is, but their income isn't so great. Maybe they're in a temporary situation where either they're on unemployment or they've lost their job for other reasons, but they want to keep the car. So either they got a little bit of equity or it's break even, it's their only transportation. They seem to be somehow managing and juggling their money that they've got to make the payment. And so we can't necessarily have them sign a reaffirmation agreement because their budget on paper isn't holding up, and the judge won't agree to sign it. So in that situation, what we have them do is they just make payments. They just agree to retain the vehicle and pay it.
Okay.
It's not, from the lender's perspective, the institutional ones anyway, an ideal situation for them. They don't really like it, but they're really not in a good position to do anything about it. As long as the payments are being made and a default has not occurred on the loan, there's very little they can actually do about the situation. Sometimes they make some off-the-cuff threats if there's not a reaffirmation agreement that they may come and get it, but that's just kind of an empty threat, and they don't.
Okay.
So for those people, they want to keep it, that's fine. Sometimes they improve their situation, they get the job and get off unemployment, or they get a better paying job or lose some other expense, and they just keep paying that vehicle. Mm-hmm. Now, the upside for that person is if something happens to the vehicle where it kind of goes kaput before the loan's paid off, well, the debt's technically discharged into bankruptcy, so they don't owe it. And when the lender gets it back and gets very little for it, there won't be any deficiency that the person's going to have to worry about paying because the bankruptcy already took care of it. So that's kind of the situation on vehicles that the person's going to actually try to keep the loan.
Right.
Now, the other situation that we have to look at is at least going in the very bad financial situation where the person probably may have bitten off more they could chew on the vehicle that they had got, where they're owing way more than the vehicle's worth, or they're sitting on a really large payment of $700 or $800 a month because it's a really large loan. We've seen some vehicle loans where people are owing $40,000, $50,000 on the loans, and it isn't a $40,000 or $50,000 car. I mean,
right.
They may have bought themselves a $30,000 car or a $32,000 car, and then they end up trading out of another one that they didn't have very long and laying $10,000 from that loan on, and then they go buy all the extra stuff, the gap insurance, the extended warranty plan, and a few other things, and there's another couple $1,000s of unnecessary costs that they stuck on their loan, so they're in a real bad way. So for some of those people, we just say, you better just start all over again and let it go back. You just can't afford this thing. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the people might be unemployed. Maybe these vehicles sometimes are the whole cause of why they need to file bankruptcy. They lost their job. They really couldn't afford the vehicle very well in the first place, and now they really can't, and there's going to be a huge deficiency when it goes back. So we just tell those people, let the car go back, start all over again. When your bankruptcy's over, you can refinance, or you can go finance another vehicle. You just go to one of the local dealerships. As long as you're working, most of the places you can go get a car loan on a used car and get okay financing for it, but financing is available, and it'll be a vehicle that you can afford this time around, and work on getting that one paid off, and that'll build your credit. So when you get that paid off, or even if you're not all the way paid off on the car, you could trade it in halfway through the loan and probably get a much better interest rate and get into a good situation on a really nice car. So that's the route for some people. Now other people, we can really work some nice magic in the bankruptcy for people under the right circumstances. We've spoken about this on other episodes, a concept called redemption. So essentially what we can do is we can refinance you out of that vehicle, and we're not just going to lower your interest rate. Some people may already have a 2% interest rate, so that part's kind of good.
Right. And
it might be the only good part of the loan. So what we're really doing is we're refinancing your loan for what the car's worth. And so if you got a $35,000 loan and the car is only worth $22,000, then we're going to refinance $22,000. And this is done through another company called 722 Redemption Financing out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And so they provide the loan through that company. We have to file a legal proceeding within the bankruptcy asking the court to allow us to do this. The lender has choices. They can elect to just let the thing go through at the value that we've put down, which is often close to what I would say would be NADA trade-in value, sometimes Kelly Blue Book trade, there is a difference. And if they realize that's probably about as good as they're going to get, if the car comes back and goes to the automobile dealer's auction, they'll take it because they'll get less at the auction universally. So otherwise, they may not like it, they may be stubborn, and so they can fight it. It's up to them, and then it might have to get decided someday by the judge in a court hearing where evidence is provided. So if we're going to be doing one of these proceedings, you have to be able to qualify under the lending standards from 722, so everybody can't just get this. Okay. They're not real strict lending standards. I mean, a person has to have a driver's license. That's kind of a good thing to have. A legal one.
You would hope.
Have to have insurance, and the ability to get it. Have to have a job. That's kind of a critical thing, and ideally the person's been at their job more than a few months. But if they've been at their job a year or two and they, everything else being equal, and they haven't had a repossession lately, it's not real difficult to get the loan through the company. And if it's kind of sketchy on the lending, they might require you to put $500 down towards the refinance, but that isn't a real bad deal.
So what loan company are you working with? Are you working with this 722 company now? Is that now your people that have your loan, or is it the original one?
No, the original one's paid off, the value of the car, and so the actual name of the loan company is called Prism Financial. 722 is the company that works with them. And so it's all kind of funneled through 722. They, I guess for lack of a better term, originate the loan and process all the loan documents. They send them to my office, and then we sit down with our clients and go through them, and they sign the new loan documents, just like if they were getting it at Ford or Wells Fargo. There's a promissory note. The new company has a lien on the car title, just like the other companies did. And you have a regular loan, just like it's a regular bank. And typically these loans will be for 4 years, sometimes 3 years. They're not real excited about taking on cars that have over 100,000 miles on them, but they will. They just kind of will lend less money on those for good reason. I think if it approaches 150,000 miles, they just won't do the loan because it doesn't have much lifetime left on the vehicle.
But at least there's options out there. And if people want more details on those options, of course, you're the expert on what's happening in the world of bankruptcy. But as you said, a lot of times people are filing bankruptcy because of a vehicle loan, or who doesn't have a vehicle or something they're having to deal with payment-wise. So if people want more details on the options that you broke down for us today, how can they get in touch with you, Michael?
You can call me at 255-1855. Find us on the internet at www.iowa-bankruptcylaw.com or follow us on Facebook.
There you go.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
Thank you
Michael.
very much.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. It is 8:52, and we will be right back. This is CW Iowa Live in West Des Moines.